Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're diving into something that I think a lot of you will find really interesting. We're going to be looking at Restock Pro and their partnership with Getida to help you guys, get some of those FBA reimbursements. So who wouldn't love an extra $400, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so Restock Pro, first of all, it's a software that helps you with inventory management. It helps you kind of take the guesswork out of, making sure that you've got the right amount of stock,
Right.
helps you optimize your stock levels, and basically avoid running out of product.
And that's like the key thing, right? Making sure that you are never out of stock. I mean,
Exactly.
that's the kiss of death for an Amazon business.
You're totally leaving money on the table if you're out of stock.
And it's more than just that though, right? It's not just about making sure that you have enough to cover like the next week or two. It's about really understanding your sales trends, forecasting accurately, and making sure that you have the right amount of inventory on hand to maximize your profits without, overspending or running into storage issues.
Yeah, you don't want to be stuck with like a whole warehouse full of stuff that you can't spend.
Exactly. Or, tying up all your cash flow in inventory that's just sitting there.
Right.
You want to be able to turn that inventory over quickly and efficiently.
And I know that one of the things that Restock Pro helps with that I think is super cool is that it helps you manage like kits and bundles.
Oh, yeah. That's a game changer, especially if you're dealing with...
Those are multiple SKUs.
Yeah, and those are a nightmare.
Oh, it's a nightmare to track that manually.
Yeah.
So having software that can automate that process and make sure that you're ordering the right components at the right time, that's huge. That's amazing. Okay, so Restock Pro is helping you with all of that. But then there's Getida. So tell me a little bit about what they bring to the table.
Right. So Getida is all about getting you back the money that you deserve from FBA. Because let's face it, things happen in those warehouses, right? Shipments get lost, products get damaged. Sometimes you're aware of it, sometimes you're not.
Right.
And Getida basically digs into your FBA data to uncover these discrepancies and file claims to get you reimbursed.
So they're kind of like a watchdog, making sure that Amazon isn't holding on to your cash
Exactly.
that you deserve. Okay, so how do they do that? What's the magic behind it?
Well, it's not really magic, but it's pretty sophisticated. They use what's called FBA inventory reconciliation data. So basically, they compare what you sent to Amazon with what Amazon says they received and sold. And that's where the discrepancies often pop up. And then there's also the pick and pack auditing, which looks specifically at those moments when your product is picked and packed for an order. Because sometimes, mistakes happen there. Maybe the wrong item gets picked or an item gets damaged in the process or something goes missing entirely.
Got it.
So Getida's team is trained to spot these errors in the data, and then they build a case for reimbursement.
That sounds like some serious detective work. So I'm just thinking, a lot of sellers are already super busy. Is this something that they could realistically tackle on their own? Or does it make sense to get some help with this?
Well, you could try to do it yourself, but honestly, combing through all that data is incredibly time-consuming. And you need to have a really deep understanding of Amazon's policies and procedures to be successful with these claims.
Right.
Getida's team, they're specialists in this area. They know exactly what to look for and how to present your case to Amazon in a way that's going to get results.
Okay, so you're basically saying that it's worth it to have somebody do it.
I think for most sellers, it makes a lot of sense.
Who knows what they're doing? And what's super cool is that Restock Pro and Getida have teamed up to make this even more appealing. So they're actually offering a deal right now where they'll try to recover $400 in FBA reimbursements for you for free. So if they find it great, you get the money. If not, you haven't lost anything.
That's a pretty sweet deal.
Yeah.
Especially for sellers who haven't explored this avenue before. It's a low-risk way to potentially recover some revenue that you didn't even know you were missing out on.
It's like finding free money.
It is like finding free money because a lot of times these errors, they go unnoticed. And every dollar counts, especially when you're running an Amazon business.
Right, absolutely. Every dollar counts. I'm hearing you talk about this and I'm getting excited about it. But at the same time, I feel like you're also kind of hinting at some things that people should be aware of before they jump in. So can you talk a little bit about the potential downsides or things to be cautious about?
Yeah, you're right to be cautious. I mean, anytime you're dealing with something like this, you want to make sure that you're going in with your eyes wide open.
Right.
So I think the first thing to remember is that no service is perfect.
Right.
Restock Pro and Getida both have solid reputations, but there's no guarantee that they'll find reimbursements for every seller.
Right.
or that they'll recover the full $400 in this initial offer.
So manage your expectations.
Exactly. Don't go into this thinking that it's a guaranteed windfall. It's more about, taking advantage of an opportunity to potentially recover some lost funds.
Okay.
And here's another thing to keep in mind. Both Restock Pro and Getida are businesses, right? And they have their own costs and profit margins to consider.
Right.
So make sure that you understand their fee structure before you commit. Do they take a percentage of the reimbursements they recover? Is there a monthly subscription fee for their services? Those are all important details to clarify upfront.
That's a really good point. A lot of times people just get so excited about the potential gains that they forget to look at, what it's going to cost.
Exactly. You got to look at the big picture.
Okay, so understand the fees.
Yeah.
Anything else that we should be thinking about?
Yeah, I think it's also important to consider the time investment involved. While these tools can automate a lot of the heavy lifting, you'll still need to spend some time setting things up, integrating them with your existing systems,
Yeah.
and monitoring their performance.
Yeah.
So, make sure that you're realistic about the time commitment required to really make the most of these services.
So it's not completely hands-off. You still got to
Right, it's not a magic bullet. You still
Yeah.
got to be involved in the process.
Okay.
And I think the last thing to remember is that the world of Amazon is constantly changing. Policies change, algorithms update, new challenges emerge.
Yeah.
Both Restock Pro and Getida, they need to stay ahead of the curve to remain effective.
That's a great point. So how can listeners kind of gauge whether these companies are actually doing that? Like, how can they know if they're staying ahead of the game?
Well, I would say look for signs of continuous improvement and innovation. Are they regularly updating their software and services? Are they responsive to customer feedback? Do they have a strong community or support system where sellers can share insights and best practices? Those are all indicators of a company that's committed to staying at the forefront of the industry.
Great advice. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today. We've talked about the potential benefits of using Restock Pro and Getida. We've also talked about some of the things that people should be cautious about. So as we kind of wrap up this part of our discussion, if you had to pick one key takeaway, what would it be?
I think the biggest takeaway is knowledge is power, right? Especially when it comes to Amazon. Don't be afraid to explore tools and services that can help you optimize your operations and maximize your profits. But at the same time, always approach these things with a critical eye. Do your research, understand the risks and rewards, and make informed decisions that align with your specific business goals.
I love that. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Restock Pro and Getida, I have one final question for you. Let's say you're able to recover some of this lost revenue. What would be your top priority for reinvesting those funds back into your business?
Ooh, that's a great question. What would you do? Would you expand your product line? Would you boost your marketing efforts? Maybe invest in some professional development? Or, hey, maybe just take a well-deserved vacation.
Right.
I mean, the possibilities are endless.
Exactly. It's all about having that control over your business and being able to make those choices. So by taking these proactive steps to manage your inventory effectively and recover lost funds, you're not just increasing your profits, you're creating a more sustainable and successful future for yourself as an Amazon seller.
Couldn't agree more. It's all about that long-term vision and making sure that you're building a business that can thrive.
Absolutely.
So keep learning, keep exploring, and never stop striving to make your business the best it can be.
Awesome. And on that note, we'll wrap up today's deep dive. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to both Restock Pro and Getida so you can learn more and see if they're the right fit for you. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep those entrepreneurial spirits soaring. For me, it's that idea of being able to reclaim those little bits of lost revenue. That really can add up over time. It's like finding money you didn't even know you were missing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's those small amounts that, when recovered consistently, can make a real difference in your profitability.
Yeah. And speaking of recovering money, I came across this quote from Yoni Mazer, who is the Chief Growth Officer at Getida. He says, "We hope the recovered funds will fuel your continued success," which I think is a really nice way of putting it.
Yeah, I love that. It really shows that they're not just a service provider. They're a partner invested in your growth.
Totally. And that's where I think this partnership between Restock Pro and Getida becomes really powerful, because you've got one tool that's helping you manage your inventory effectively. And then another tool is making sure that you're not leaving money on the table.
It's like a 1-2 punch. For Amazon sellers,
Totally.
imagine this. You're using Restock Pro to stay on top of your inventory, avoiding those stockouts, optimizing your purchasing decisions, And then Getida swoops in and recovers a couple $100 here, a couple $100 there. From FBA issues that you might not have even noticed, suddenly you've got extra capital to invest in new product development, marketing campaigns, maybe even just take a much-needed vacation.
Ooh, a vacation.
Oh,
Sign me up. Okay, so this is all sounding really good in theory, but I want to get real for a second. I'm sure some of our listeners are thinking like, okay, this all sounds too good to be true. So what's the catch? Are there any downsides? Things that people should be cautious about?
it's important to approach this with a healthy dose of skepticism.
Right.
So I think the first thing to remember is that no service is perfect.
Right.
While both Restock Pro and Getida have strong track records, there's no guarantee that they'll find reimbursements for every seller or that they'll be able to recover the full $400 in this initial offer.
So manage your expectations.
Right. Don't go into this thinking it's a guaranteed windfall.
Got it.
And, another thing to keep in mind is that Restock Pro and Getida are businesses,
Yeah.
so they have their own costs and profit margins to consider.
Right.
So it's really important to make sure that you understand their fee structure before you commit to anything. Do they take a percentage of the reimbursements they recover? Is there a monthly subscription fee for their services? These are all things that you want to clarify up front.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Sometimes we get so focused on the potential gains, we forget to look at the costs involved.
Exactly.
So understand the fees. Anything else that we should be thinking about?
Well, I think it's also crucial to consider the time investment involved. While these tools can automate a lot of the heavy lifting, you'll still need to spend some time setting things up, integrating them with your existing systems, and, monitoring their performance.
Okay.
So make sure that you're being realistic about the time commitment that's required to really make the most of these services.
So it's not a completely hands-off solution.
Right, exactly.
You still need to be involved.
You still need to be actively involved in the process.
Got it.
And I think lastly, remember that the Amazon world is constantly changing. Policies change, algorithms update, new challenges emerge.
For sure.
Both Restock Pro and Getida need to stay ahead of the curve to remain effective.
That's a really good point. So how can listeners kind of figure out whether or not these companies are actually staying ahead of the game?
I would say look for signs of continuous improvement and innovation. Are they regularly updating their software and services? Are they responsive to customer feedback? Do they have a strong community or support system where sellers can share insights and best practices? Those are all indicators of a company that's committed to staying at the forefront of the industry.
I like that. Okay, so before we wrap up, I want to kind of circle back to the listener for a moment. We've talked about a lot today. We've explored both the potential benefits and potential drawbacks of using Restock Pro and Getida. So if you had to sum it all up, what would you say is the most important thing for listeners to take away from our conversation today?
I think the big takeaway here is that knowledge is power, especially in the world of Amazon. Don't be afraid to explore, different tools and services that can help you optimize your operations and maximize your profits. But at the same time, always be sure to approach these things with a critical eye. Do your research, understand the risks and rewards, and make informed decisions that align with your specific business goals.
Yeah, I love that. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Restock Pro and Getida, I have one final question for you. If you could recover even a portion of that potentially lost revenue, what would be your top priority for reinvesting those funds back into your business?
Ooh, that's a great question to think about. What would you do? Would you maybe expand your product line, boost your marketing efforts, invest in some professional development to sharpen your skills, or, hey, maybe just take a well-deserved bonus for all your hard work?
Right.
The possibilities are endless.
Exactly. It's all about having that control over your business.
Yeah.
And being able to make those choices for yourself. So by taking these proactive steps to manage your inventory effectively and recover lost funds, you're not just increasing your profits, you're really creating a more sustainable and successful future for yourself as an Amazon seller.
Absolutely. It's about having that long-term vision and making sure that you're building a business that can thrive.
I love it.
So keep learning, keep exploring, and never stop striving to make your business the best it can be.
Awesome. Well, on that note, we'll wrap up today's deep dive. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to both Restock Pro and Getida so you can learn more and see if they're a good fit for you. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep those entrepreneurial spirits soaring.